In a quiet nursing home in Brussels, 92-year-old Georgette lived a life of silence. Her only companion was the rhythmic dripping of rain against her window pane, a soundtrack to her loneliness. Her room was tidy, her memories captured in fading photographs of a family now too busy to visit. She wasn't angry, just resigned to an existence of being forgotten, a common price for independence in the modern world. She would watch the gray Belgian sky for hours, waiting for a visitor who never came. But one winter, the silence was broken. A new resident moved in next door, a woman as frail as Georgette. But her room was different. It buzzed with warmth. Weekends brought the sound of a family knot, the hurried squeak of nurses' shoes, but the steady, loving steps of visitors. Georgette started leaving her door ajar, captivated by what she saw. The women wore headscarves, the men had beards, and they brought fresh fruit and hot food that smelled of wonderful spices. What truly mesmerized Georgette wasn't what they brought, but how they acted. She watched a tall young man, in the prime of his life, enter his mother's room. He would gently bend down and kiss her wrinkled hand. He never checked his watch or his phone. He would sit on the floor beside her bed, holding her hand, listening to her whispers as if they were the most important words in the world. The young women would comb her hair and laugh with her. They didn't treat her like a burden. They treated her like a treasure. A painful lump would form in Georgette's throat. It was a mix of admiration and a piercing jealousy. She had a family too. Why was her room so empty while the one next door overflowed with love? Was her neighbor rich? Did she hold some inheritance over them? The questions haunted her. One afternoon, her curiosity became too much to bear. As the family was leaving, Georgette gathered her strength and stood by her doorway. The young man who always kissed his mother's hand passed by. "Excuse me," she said, her voice thin and cracking. He stopped immediately, his smile genuine and kind. "Yes, madame. Can I help you?" Georgette looked up at him. "I've watched you," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I see how you treat her. You visit, you feed her, you kiss her hand like she's a queen. My family, they don't come. Why do you do this? Is she rich? Does she have money for you?" The young man laughed softly. "No, madame. She has no money. She has nothing of material value to give us." "Then why?" Georgette pressed, tears welling in her eyes. "Why do you treat an old woman with such devotion when the rest of the world forgets us?" His expression turned gentle and profound. "Because, madame, our religion commands us to. In Islam, our prophet taught us that paradise lies at the feet of our mothers, serving her, loving her, respecting her in her old age. This is not a burden. It is our gateway to God. We believe that just looking at her face with love is an act of worship. We do it because we fear God and we love Him." The words struck Georgette like a wave, a religion that guarantees paradise through caring for the elderly. She had lived 92 years, seen wars and peace, but she had never heard of a system that elevated the old and weak to such a divine status. In her world, the elderly were expired goods. In his world, they were the keys to heaven. Islam. She whispered the word. It was a word she only heard on the news, usually tied to fear. But right here, it looked like love. It looked like dignity. "Tell me more," she pleaded. And so, in the cold hallway of a nursing home, the young man spoke to her about the one God, about a creator closer than our own jugular vein, a God of mercy who hears and sees all. For the first time in years, the icy cold in Georgette's chest began to melt. She invited them in. Over the next few weeks, the family visited Georgette too. They brought her warm food and sat with her, listening to her stories. They became the family she had lost, not by blood, but by spirit. More importantly, they brought her the truth. At 92, in the twilight of her life, Georgette realized her soul had been thirsty for something she never knew existed. One quiet evening, she knew her time was short. She didn't want to leave this world a lonely, forgotten soul. She wanted to belong to the God who commanded such mercy. She called the family to her room. "I want to be like you," she said, her eyes clear and determined. "I want to be a Muslim." In that small room, with a few witnesses, the frail old woman repeated the words with a full heart. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulallah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. A profound relief washed over her. The weight of nearly a century lifted from her shoulders. At 92, her soul was brand new, wrapped in the mercy of her Lord. She insisted on learning to pray, wanting to put her forehead on the ground to thank the one who had guided her at the very end. Georgette didn't live long after that day, but what mattered was the ending. She passed away peacefully, a smile on her face that hadn't been there before, and the true miracle happened after her last breath. Georgette, the woman who had sat alone for years, forgotten by her own blood, did not leave this world alone. When news of her conversion spread through the local Muslim community, they came. They came in the hundreds. People who had never met her, who didn't know her name, gathered to honor her. They washed her body with respect, shrouded her in pure white cloth, and prayed for her. Row after row of sons and daughters bowing their heads for their new sister in faith. The woman who feared dying in isolation was carried to her grave by a multitude of believers. Her story is a powerful reminder that guidance is in God's hands alone. It is never too late. At 92, Georgette didn't just find a religion. She finally found her way home. Thank you for watching.